So whenever you want, just turn your microphone on and they can hear you. Good evening. I'll call this meeting to order at 5:32. This is a public meeting, and I'm going to ask for any declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest or general nature thereof? If so, please declare it now. Seeing none, I will actually pause the meeting to address the participants. We have a hand up, so we'll allow Cyrus to speak before we get too far into the agenda. Ms. Cyrus?
Yes, can you hear me?
We can.
Hi, thank you for that. I just wanted to let you know I'm Cyrus from Forbes and ExploreNet here for this meeting. Okay. In case there's some questions, I wasn't sure if you could see me online or not yet.
We can see your name, but now we know who you're attached to, so that's very helpful. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Okay. So I'm going to read the public statement in regards to the Planning Act. Personal information collected at this public hearing is collected under the authority of the Planning Act and the Municipal Act. All names, addresses, opinions, and comments are collected to form part of the minutes which are available to the public. Questions regarding this collection should be forwarded to the Director of Planning. The purpose of the meetings is to present applications in a public forum. Following presentations by the applicant or staff, council members will have. Okay. Oh, no, I don't think are you muted? There. Okay. So the meeting will be open to the public for comments and questions. When you speak, please provide your name and address for recording in the minutes. All comments should be directed to the chair of the meeting, myself. The applicant will be provided the opportunity to address the public questions once all members of the public have made their submissions. For the applications being presented tonight, a report and recommendation are being presented to council. Following a council decision, notice will be circulated in accordance with the Planning Act. If a person or public body would have an ability to appeal a decision of council to the local planning appeal tribunal, but the person or public body does not make oral submissions at public meeting or make written submissions to the township before the bylaw is passed, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision. So with that, we'll move forward in the agenda with the purpose of the meeting, which is 3.1 Tower Application T-2021-001 620 Haig Road. And I'll ask the planner to bring that forward for consideration.
Thank you. Through you. This is an application for consultation for a tower at 620 Haig Road. The property subject to this application has a lot area of approximately 53 hectares. With 260 meters of frontage on the north side of Haig Road. The proposed tower will be set back approximately 145 meters from the nearest existing dwelling located at 652 Haig Road. The property is surrounded by large agricultural lots and smaller residential lots. The proposed tower is a communication structure. It will be approximately 45 meters in height and will occupy a footprint of approximately 3 by 3 meters. Notice for this meeting was circulated, and to date there was a couple of phone calls requesting clarification, but no other comments.
Thank you, Madam Planner. Are there any questions from council? Go ahead, Councillor, maybe.
Thank you, worshiping through you. To our guest who's probably online there might be able to answer these questions is when a tower is actually constructed, what is the distance or range that it's capable of actually transmitting or receiving information? And how many providers or antennae can be put on each tower? As we grow with our network connection, there seems to be a lot of connectability, and the towers seem to be going up around our borough fairly easily. So I'm just wondering how many we are going to require in the future by those questions. Thank you.
I will recognize Cyrus at this point in time because I believe he would be the only one to be able to answer that question in technical terms. Cyrus, yes. We've, I believe, unmuted you.
Yes, you have. Thank you for the questions. A couple of things about this site. So we actually have an existing operating site at this property currently. It's been attached to the on top of the grain elevator that's on that property. But as we're upgrading the network, adding more equipment on top of these older silos isn't structurally or technically feasible. So that's why we're proposing to put up a new structure here that'll accommodate all the latest technology that we have. The theoretical range of one of these sites, assuming we lived in a fairly flat part of the world, can be as far as 20 kilometers. Now, the person at the end of the 20 kilometers is not going to have very reliable service. So we try to keep our customers within about a 10-kilometer radius. And in this particular case, we actually have other operational sites about 10 kilometers, 10 to 12 kilometers in every direction. So there's going to be some overlap in coverage, which also adds to the amount of capacity that we can add to the network. And I think the third question was with regards to co-location, if I understood it correctly. The structure that we're proposing is a sort of a mid-duty lattice tower. So it would easily be able to accommodate another provider similar to Xplornet, or more often what we see is different municipal type services wanting to co-utilize the tower. You wouldn't be able to put an installation from a cell phone carrier as well on one of these towers. They're not quite beefy enough to handle that kind of a load.
Yeah, not compatible for that. Yes. Okay, well, that answers my questions. Thank you very much.
Are there any,
Pleasure.
Councillor Foti, I'll recognize you.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you, my question to our guest, this tower, is it in replacement to the existing tower or in addition to?
No, it'll be a replacement. So once this tower is up and the equipment is operational, we'll decommission everything that's on the silo.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions in regards to this application? Thank you very much. We'll move on to the second.
Open
Oh,
it up to the public.
sorry, I apologize.
Sorry, through your worship, if there's anybody from the public that would
Oh,
like to speak to
I
this
apologize.
application.
Are there any individuals who are attending the meeting who would like to ask a question or make a comment in regards to this application? If so, if you could use the raise your hand function down at the bottom of your screen, you can raise your hand. I don't see anybody raising their hand at this point. So seeing none, I will move forward with the second application, which is 3.2 Tower Application T-2021-002, 206 Sweets Corners Road. Go ahead, Madam Potter.
Thank you, through your worship. This is another public meeting for Xplornet Communications Tower. The property is located at 206 Sweets Corners Road. It's a similar tower to the one for the meeting we previously had, so it'd be 45 meters in height and occupy approximately 3 meters by 3 meters on the floor with a shelter at the base of the tower. There's no lighting required for the tower. Notice for this application was circulated to the properties in the area, and similar phone calls with clarification regarding the nature of the tower were received, but no comments for or against the proposal.
Thank you, Madam Planner. Any questions in regards to this application? I don't have any from councillors, so I'm going to go to the attendees. Are there any questions or comments needing to be made from the attendees? Please use the raise your hand function at the bottom of your bottom of your screen if you have a question or comment. Seeing none, I will move forward with the second public meeting that we have on schedule this evening, which is, I've already asked for declaration of interest, but I'll ask again in case you're looking at the separate agenda, which is the Z 2021-007 notice of proposed housekeeping amendments township-wide. Are there any declarations of interest that you would like to declare at this point in time? I see no declarations, so we'll move forward with 3.1 Z-2021-007, notice of proposed housekeeping amendments township-wide. Madam Planner?
Thank you, through your worship. This is a township-initiated amendment to the zoning bylaw. There's a number of proposed amendments throughout the bylaw to update general provisions for ease of interpretation, to modify some of the definitions where there were provisions included in the definitions to create the provisions in the section of the bylaw where they're supposed to go. There's some updates in terms of deleting minimum lot areas, clarification around definitions, and deleting some clauses that maybe shouldn't have been in a zoning bylaw, such as a clause that might say this is required to be subject to site plan control because it's regulated under site plan control. So it didn't need to be in the zoning bylaw. So it's a very administrative amendment. No actual provisions are being changed in terms of performance standards of zones. So it's an administrative amendment to update the bylaw. The other big thing is it's adding barrier-free parking in accordance with accessibility standards. So it'll bring the bylaw in line with current provincial standards and requirements for barrier-free parking. Notice was circulated in accordance with the Planning Act. There were a few inquiries received. One was with respect to whether or not this would undo a previous minor variance approval. These amendments will not impact any previous planning approvals that have been applied for and received on any properties.
Thank you. Are there any questions or concerns in regards to these amendments? I see none from the council. I will go to the public and the attendees. Does anyone on the call would like to make a comment or ask a question in regards to the proposed changes? I'll ask you to use the raise your hand function at the bottom of your screen. And I see no hands being raised, but I will go to Councillor Maybe and ask you to step up.
Thank you, Worshipman, through you. The only thing that I noted was number 1617, which is the farm ag. I was trying to figure out what that really meant, what that term was.
I just have to get to it.
Yep.
Sorry, 16 and 17?
Yes. No.
Oh, so 16 and 17, they delete text from the general provisions for on-farm agricultural related uses that aren't enforceable through zoning and are regulated under site plan control. So the text that says on-farm agriculture related and on-farm diversified uses shall be restricted to being located on the lowest priority soils of agricultural lands on the property. That's not something we can enforce through zoning.
Okay.
The other is that where these uses require planning approval, they're subject to site plan control, which the site plan control bylaw regulates what's subject to site plan control. So that's not an appropriate provision to be included in the zoning bylaw. So it's just deleting those to clean them up.
Okay. No, thank you.
Councillor Burrell.
I apologize. Took me through you, your worship, took me a minute to find this on section 27, the island residential zone. What does that entail, Marnie?
Okay, just a second. I just need to get to the track changes version. What it was it spoke to how to calculate lot frontage on an island. And it was how to calculate it based on geodetic elevations and reference to the Conservation Authority, which is an extremely challenging, if we can't understand what the provision says I'm not sure how we're supposed to enforce it or require it. So there's requirements for frontage based on lots and based on other things, but that was a provision that was extremely difficult to interpret and implement. And there's still requirements for setbacks and other performance standards in the zone. So it was an arbitrary provision.
Do we then still have a frontage requirement?
Yes, the island residential zone still has a requirement for frontage for side yard setbacks, rear yard setbacks, and lot area. So basically what the provision was saying is that frontage should be calculated at the high water level, which was dictated by geodetic elevation. But it was also a redundant provision because it was duplicated by the zone itself. So we've run this by the Conservation Authority. There's no concerns with the removal of it from the bylaw.
Thank you for those questions. Any further questions in regards to this amendment? Seeing none, and I don't think there's any further comments. Nobody has their hand up at this point. So with that, we'll close this meeting. And there's a motion moved by Councillor Maybe and seconded by Councillor Foti that the public meeting adjourn. All those in favor, please signify. All those opposed, and it's carried. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you at council.